Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Battlefield V. I played it on the Xbox One, it's also available on the PS4 and PC. Okay, so let's start off with the campaign. The campaign takes place in World War II. And not unlike the previous Battlefield, it is a collection of stories from different perspectives in the war. That being said, I did enjoy the different stories. I like the different perspectives. I think it's a pretty cool way of going about it. Next up, the audio. The voiceover work in the game is very well done, as are the sound effects and the music. I really like the use of music in this game. I think they did a very good job. I think everyone who did any voiceover work added something to what they were doing, and the sound effects were excellent during both the multiplayer and single player. But let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot. So let's start off with, I'm just gonna say this now, they needed to delay this game. I will get into it more as I go through this and prior to the wrap up. But let's start off with, I finished the prologue of the game, which you have to do before you can really do anything, that is including play the campaign or play multiplayer, and the game didn't necessarily freeze, but I got stuck on an eternal loading screen. So that's never a great way to start the fucking game. Let's also address the fact that there are modes that aren't even available yet. They weren't available at launch. Now, I don't like to draw comparisons, but I'm gonna have to here, because while Call of Duty Black Ops 4 did not have a campaign, not a real one anyways, it was never going to have one. It had all the other game modes that it was going to have, that they claimed they were going to have at launch. Battlefield V does not have game modes that they claimed were going to be ready. Also, not only going from the prologue to the main menu did the game freeze on me, going from a match back to the main menu, the game froze on me. This happened to me numerous times throughout my playing of this game. It was really fucking annoying. It's unacceptable. Battlefield really kind of started out as a multiplayer game, and that's always been at its core, and the one thing I will give it is that once again, it gives you a larger scale battle than most other first-person shooters on the console, not including Battle Royale games which do the 100-man, but in scale like this and the way this game is done, with tanks and planes and all of that, this is really the only game out there with that experience. But then, I do have to complain immediately because I looked for it right away, there's no hardcore mode once again. And admittedly, the regular mode isn't too far removed from a hardcore mode, but it is still far enough removed that it does annoy me. Also, one thing that they've included is there's not really a great reason to be a medic apart from healing, because now everyone can revive, whether they're a medic or not, and on top of that, you still have the option of just killing yourself off, essentially, letting your character die and respawning. I think they should go back to the old way where it was mandatory to wait to die, that way somebody can try to revive you. When it comes to the multiplayer, the game modes do work well, the squad is still a thing, it's still not quite as well done as it used to be. I think the older games like Battlefield 3, 4, Bad Company, they lent themselves better to the squad mechanics than the modern version. I'm going to split up my complaints, some are multiplayer, some are campaign, but one that goes across both is traversal. I had a lot of issues with traversal in this game. During the multiplayer, I would be trying to climb up small berms that I would need to mantle over, essentially, and it would not allow me to. I would have to try a dozen plus times before I'd finally get over it, and that's not acceptable in multiplayer because it leaves you out in the open, and I died numerous times because of it. It's bullshit. It's not okay. But then, even during the campaign, I would run into similar issues of I'd be trying to crawl through something that I should be able to. Specifically, I did try and crawl through something that looked more than large enough, and I got stuck. Literally stuck, could not move, had to restart at the last checkpoint to get myself unstuck from that situation. Honestly, I found that the campaign was more broken than the multiplayer. There were things like running into a truck that was not on fire and somehow getting lit on fire. That happened to me in the campaign. That was a lot of fun. Or the fact that I would be on a mission using a bolt-action sniper rifle and 1 to 2 shots. Okay, fine, whatever. But I would switch to a semi-automatic one that's the exact same caliber and it would take 3 to 4 shots all of a sudden. But a suppressed pistol caliber weapon could kill enemies in 1 shot. That's not acceptable. That's so unacceptable. It fucks with everything, honestly. Alright, let's move on to the controls. The controls work for the most part. Once again, the controls during the multiplayer worked fine, but during the campaign I ran into issues which made no sense. Like, I was trying to reload at one point and I had to press the button 5 or 6 times before my character would reload. I was doing nothing other than trying to reload. I also was on a mounted gun and could not get off the fucking gun, which led me to get shot and take a bunch of damage that I otherwise should not have taken because I was already trying to dismount from the gun. So while the controls worked honestly very well during the multiplayer, while playing the campaign, they worked for shit for some reason. Not complete shit, they worked well most of the time, but the times that they didn't work, it was just incredibly frustrating and didn't make sense. Let's address the graphics. During the cutscenes, this game looks very, very good. During the actual gameplay, it looks really dated, honestly. Like, a lot of the subtle details that should be there aren't there. The clothing doesn't look as realistic as it could. The landscape doesn't look as good as it should. It's just unimpressive. At least during the campaign. During the multiplayer, there are certain effects that seem to be present there that aren't in the campaign, and it ends up looking better. Not hugely better, but some of the effects look better, like dirt particles and whatnot when things are exploding. But there was a point where I was skiing down a slope and it just looked like shit. Like, it didn't look like I'd been skiing, it looked like, honestly, my skis were clipping through the texture. Then you've just got some kind of lazier things like the cutscene from Mission 2. Well, the cutscene, your character has a Sten, and when you're actually playing, he has a Thompson. You know, two very different looking guns, like, don't even look vaguely similar. So that just felt kind of lazy, and I know that may be a silly gripe, but it's lazy. Alright, so I'm gonna wrap this up. First of all, I love Battlefield. I have sank way too many hours into Battlefield Bad Company and Battlefield 3 and Battlefield Hardline. Battlefield 4 was a completely broken mess that I didn't waste my time with because I tried it and 6 months later it was still busted as fuck. Battlefield 1 was enjoyable. I think the enjoyment wore off a little too quickly on it, personally. But Battlefield 5 has the potential of being better than Battlefield 1 and a good Battlefield entry. The problem is, it needed to be delayed by many months, honestly. You've then got the shoddy graphics, you've got controls that don't consistently work, you've got all sorts of glitches with the menus of all fucking things. I really wanted to enjoy Battlefield 5, I really wanted this to be the new multiplayer game for me, but quite frankly, Battlefield 5 was not ready for launch. They needed to hold off until sometime early next year, maybe March or somewhere in there, but they didn't. And they released an not quite unplayable game, but definitely not of the quality that it should be. So I gotta say, I recommend the game, but I recommend waiting for the game to be fixed. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me if you played Battlefield Bad Company 2? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share or subscribe. Have a good one.